If they asked me, I could write a book about the way you walk and whisper and look.
Joining us now on our Book Talk segment, great to welcome a man who's put together a really interesting book and kit. It's called The Totally Irresponsible Science Kit, 18 Daring Experiments for Young Scientists. We're joined today by Sean Connolly on the telephone. And Sean, good to talk with you. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thanks. It's great to talk to you.
Good to have a chance to chat for a couple of minutes. Just kind of reading through what you have here. It reminded me, now you may not remember this, maybe you're too young. There used to be a TV show on called Mr. Wizard, who did all these kind of cool stuff with things around the house. So you're kind of taking that to a new level.
That's pretty much the same idea. We're working on the same wavelength, put it that way, to keep the scientific analogy going. But you're right. I think when you said household ingredients or things around the house, that's sort of encapsulated it. We're trying to show that you don't need to have special equipment you send off for or drive miles to buy from the special store. It's right under your nose.
I'm not sure if every kid had one, but I think probably most boys did anyway growing up. You'd get a chemistry set or some kind of kit for Christmas or your birthday, but those were chemicals you had to be careful of. But what you have in your book here are, like you said, things around the house that are a little safer to deal with, right?
Well, they are. You can still do pretty cool things with them, but in and of themselves, we're really just talking about stuff as basic and safe as lemons or potatoes or balloons and thumbtacks, pieces of styrofoam. And it's just how you kind of mix and match them that you can get some pretty interesting effects.
Talk about some of the interesting ones in there. You mentioned potato. You can make a lot of things with vegetables, right? The chemical reaction. What can you do with potato?
Well, it's interesting because, in fact, just over a week ago, I was down your way. I was in Tampa. I went to Berkeley Prep. There was a visit sponsored by Inkwood Books.
Oh, sure.
And the kids got a real kick out of it. I did a display of demonstration of about 5 or 6 experiments. Always getting kids up to help me. That's the best thing, because it reminds me of doing them with my own children. But the potato gun, and this is one that probably does qualify as being a bit irresponsible, potentially. We're talking about a PVC pipe that you plug either end with potato. You just sort of jam it down in the potato, one end, then the other. And then you find a broomstick that's just a bit narrower than the diameter of the pipe, and you slowly load one of the plugs down. You slide it down. A bit like Civil War cannons or muskets, they have those ramrods. And what you're doing, and this is where the science comes in, but I only tell them this after I do the shooting, you then pull back that broomstick and then give it a bit of a plunge, a quick one, not the steady one you've just been doing. And that's enough to get that other plug just launched out. And it can be a bit irresponsible if you don't choose your target carefully. I was okay at Berkeley, but once or twice I've done this at schools and I've just missed the American flag or George Washington, so gotta be careful.
Mashed potatoes on the tea tree, you don't want that, right?
Well, that would be it. Now, you see, in this instance, I can imagine someone doing this at home and then having to explain why there's a piece of potato sliding down the kitchen wall or some wall, and that's where I sneak the science in. It's called a scientific excuse, and that's where they learn a bit about why it did what it just did.
I remember, and you talk about it in the book, in elementary school, during some of the science blocks that you went through that, people would make these volcanoes on a big tray with, I forget the ingredients now, but you talk about it in the book, so they're still doing that, huh?
Oh, sure. In fact, it's funny how some of these go full circle, don't they? That some of the things that you might think everyone remembers that from Boy Scouts or whatever. Today's kids don't necessarily have the same formative experiences. They've got lots more, of course, but some of the things that you might think are, I wouldn't say old hat, but familiar, turn out to be quite novel. And not just that, but the idea of actually doing something, tangible objects that you hold and touch and pour. It's a bit different from working on screens.
Yeah, it really is. And I remember that one. That was always kind of a messy one, but some kid would always bring it in for the demonstration, and it'd be fun to watch, but it would make a big mess, the volcano.
Absolutely. When you start throwing food coloring into the mix, that really gets irresponsible.
Well, like you said, these are fun experiments to do, but they're all based on science. Your background as a teacher, I guess?
Not in the least. Well, the nearest thing I can say is, well, first of all, I do lots of school demonstrations, so I have the highest regard for teachers. But no, I'm an educational writer, and I've written dozens of books, to be honest. But it's really these 3 science and math books, the more recent ones, that have been, if you like, labors of love. They're collaborations with my own children. So that's where a lot of the inspiration came.
I know, the previous one was the book of Perfectly Perilous Math, making math easier to understand. I'm all for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, maybe some of your listeners will remember those word problems, like 2 trains leaving Chicago, one traveling at 42 miles an hour. Well, as I recall, the bright kids were bored by those, and the kids who didn't find them so easy were also bored by them. And we tried to introduce a few that were a little bit more out there, if you like robots chasing you down, or Edgar Allan Poe, Pit and the Pendulum. You've got to work stuff out using math just to save your life. And that, I think, kind of captures the interest. So, yes, it's something, again, where you're trying to get what might be an old subject and give it a new treatment. And
you have a lot of interesting facts and questions you ask in the book. I thought this was kind of interesting. I never heard this before. Is milk really related to plastic? Can you explain that?
Yes, I can. It's not. I mean, you're not drinking plastic, but when you have a glass of milk. But when you just work on it a little bit to separate the curd from the whey, and the proteins that make up the liquid milk can soon become like a pudding consistency, and left for a couple of days they harden. So interestingly, it's almost an identical process when plastics are produced with hydrocarbons. Now, if you mention something like hydrocarbons and chains of molecules at the outset, talking about plastic, I think that's when kids start looking out the window. But if you can do something really cool with milk, and they hold this gloopy thing in their hands, and then you say, that's a lot like plastic, because the molecules are raised in the same way, that's when they start to click.
Yeah, I guess, because plastic's from oil, right? So that's a liquid, becomes a solid, right?
That's right.
Yeah, well, it's a fascinating book, and again, I hope more science teachers do this. I always enjoyed science class. The best teachers would do like what you're doing, have good demonstrations. You learn a lot better that way.
Well, and the funny thing is, and I have to say, hand on heart, I've learned a lot along the way, too, which is great. I like to tell kids that what I do for a living is kind of like doing homework for a living. So I start out needing to know a bit more, and at the end of it, hope I do.
Name of the book is The Totally Irresponsible Science Kit. We've been talking with Sean Connolly today. Sean, do you have a website you can direct people to get more information?
Yes, certainly. The best one probably would be the publisher's website, which is workman.com, who published my books, and then the Totally Irresponsible Science Kit. You go to the author's pages there. Likewise, there's a work in progress, which within the next few days might well have some photographs of my appearance in Tampa. And that'll be my Facebook page, which is facebook.com, Sean Connolly 007/.
Well, Sean, pleasure to talk to you. Hopefully we can do it again. And next time you're in the Tampa Bay area, hopefully you'll let us know. We'll have you on again. But thanks for being with us today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or Doug Miles Media.